I want to bring in Advaita Kala into this conversation as we also welcome Rahul Eswar into this debate. Advaita Kala, the fact is there is already, so much, stuff we don't really talk about. There's this whole emotional pressure, emotional angle where women themselves beat themselves over of whether they should have children, not have children, choose career, how will they be viewed in terms of in the cultural, societal context. There's enough going on there, and the whole emotional quotient of this debate often gets overlooked, where you divide women in terms of, their age demographic or 20s, 30s, oh Lord, why is she having children in her 40s, where she wouldn't be able to care for them enough. There's, that battle in any case plays out in a woman's head and only gets amplified where in the cultural and societal context. Ma'am, you're in mute.
Sorry about that. Preeti, as someone who's never been married and never had a child, I'm definitely an outlier as far as the sociological aspect of this is concerned. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a lot of have you missed the boat sort of things that come your way every once in a while. And so what? Okay, maybe it's not the boat I was waiting for at the dock. Maybe it's another boat I'm waiting for. So I mean, I don't really care, but I do recognize that's a privilege not to care the way I do. But for a lot of women, what I find so problematic about this conversation is that you just limit women to their bodies.
True.
And how their bodies can serve a collective goal. Now, that's not what being a woman is about. We are more than our biology. We are much more than that. And the fact that you think that our role and our contribution to nation building is limited to procreation, I find deeply offensive and objectionable. Every woman who walks this earth or walks in this country does not necessarily have to be a mother. Being a mother is an entirely different experience. And it doesn't just stop at bearing the child. It continues on till the kid is, I guess, alive. I mean, a lot of people, I see the relationships that people have, adult children have with their parents, is still one of nurture and caring and caregiving. So being a caregiver is also a huge role. Now, not every individual, be it man or woman, is capable of being that kind of nurturer and caregiver. And we have to accept that spectrum of emotions and relationships in both genders. There may be men who are not, not geared to be fathers. It's completely natural. The worst possible thing you can do is have a child and not be emotionally ready to handle it or financially ready to handle it, but just, go ahead and just procreate, because that's what you should do. I think it's a very dangerous, slippery slope to get into.
But, you're bang on. And, just on a lighter note, because I do see it as, generationally, women are thinking different, changing very quickly. I come from a generation where, most of my friends, including me, have actually gone the route of freezing our eggs. It can be a hedge. It might not be 100%, but we've gone that route, just in case we want to, make, room if we ever want to have children. So there is at least, a bank there. You don't know if it's going to really work, but somewhere down the line you just feel better about going about your business. But I love the fact that I have a niece who's really young, in her early 20s, and if somebody asks her, if my mother asks her something, the immediate answer is MYOB, which I love, because I think ultimately it is mind your own business. So and I think that's what one really needs to look at. But I want to bring in Dr. Archana Dhawan, because we're talking about freezing of eggs. Upasana herself said in that tweet that women should have that opportunity, and it is a privilege, Dr. Archana, for somebody who's been through that process. And I advocate to every young girl, who's looking at a long career, that if you might not want to have a child today, but if you want to have a child ever in the future, go ahead, at least just freeze your eggs. But it's not easy. It takes an emotional toll. There are multiple injections involved. I know I've gone through that process. And it's not a sure shot guarantee that they'll actually, you'd be able, to have a progeny from the eggs that you freeze. And sometimes it's multiple cycles to even get that bank that you can bank on.
Absolutely. I've been listening with a lot of pride to what the people who spoke before me had to say, and it makes me feel that women in our country are getting emancipated, and how. Of course, as a healthcare provider, it is for me to advocate to some extent to women that this is the right age, this is the right body time, the body clock, the body type, etc., etc. But saying that, at no point would I want anybody to take away the freedom of taking the decision from me. For example, I got married at 22, had a child at 23. I'm a grandmother of 2 children at 56. But at the same time, I had amazing support from the family, from my partner, and I'm at the top of my career. Most of us do get this privilege, but some of us don't. And the decision whether to actually go down the baby route or not finally lies with the lady A. So that's something to figure out. But saying that, medically you cannot take away the fact that there is a right time, there is a reasonable egg quality, there is a biological clock which is ticking. The minute you cross 35, there is a decline in the egg number, there is a decline in the egg quality, there is a higher chance of having chromosomal abnormalities in the baby. And of course, the minute you cross 40, it could also take a toll on your own body. Of course, saying that, there would be several people who are amazingly fit, who will do so well as parents at 55, but then it's not just about having a child, it's also about bringing up the child. And as someone before me pointed out so correctly, it's not just procreating, creating a baby, and then, to each his own. I'm 56, trust me, I am still involved with my children, I'm involved with my grandchildren. It's an ongoing process, and it's a process I would want to respect. So saying all of this, of course, the biological clock has to be respected. Offering egg freezing is not a bad option. It has its downsides, which have to be counseled adequately. It has its amazing upside that even at 50, of course, the legal limit is 50. In your late 40s, if you do want to have biologically your own child, you have this bank, which, as you very rightly pointed out, may work sometimes, may not work other times, but at least that option exists. If this is not offered, not explained, not discussed, the option, it's a shut and close. Either you don't have a baby or you go for gamete donation or whatever way. But seeing that, it's wise to offer, but not at the cost of your liberation, not at the cost of, want for not wanting to do it entirely. I mean, for somebody who doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to have a partner, may not want to have a child out of a so-called a marriage situation, is perfectly all right. As you said, the demography hasn't come crashing. Fertility rates are declining, but then that's because people are more educated to decide that they want to have an X number of children, have an X number of children at the right time also. Of course, there are states like Kashmir where fertility rates are declining because for some amazing reason, women want to get a government job before they actually get down to getting married. So which is the kind of pressure that I would not want at least my daughter to be a part of. So the decision, the time, the mode, the way forward has to be the female's choice. And even if it's at the cost of sounding radical, it's at the cost of sounding extremely feminist, but that is the way I am, and that is the way I would want others to respect.
Fair point. And there is
doctor,
also a flip side to it, which one needs to accept. If you're going to have kids in your mid-40s, then you're going to be that much older. And, in terms of caregiving, those need to be factored in. But I also know, having said that, many women who've chosen to have children in their mid-40s and are actually great caregivers because, they're able to nurture their children better, they're financially all there, and it's a decision that they've made of their own volition. And very rarely does that actually happen where family planning, a term that we use so often. I want to, very gingerly go across to Rahul Eswar, because Rahul Eswar has been holding his head, and why do I fear? He has a very contrarian view, because Rahul Eswar is not, many suggest it's an India problem. It really is not an India problem. This is an international problem. We've seen this conversation come up, and in America, especially after Trump, it's a cycle that it's taken. It's not an Indian context. Sometimes maybe in India we are more judgmental where the society is concerned, but it's an international problem which women face across, where the pressure of adding to the demography is concerned, as they are the sole bearers of that cause.
Two submissions, ma'am. First, family is the basic unit of society, and without family, there is no future for mankind. And second, there is an honest ideological debate regarding this. Why we should be open about this. There is a liberal versus conservative. There is a progressive versus cultural debate going on with this. And even she has rightly mentioned this is the progressive India, which I don't agree with. Progressive doesn't mean anti-family.
Rahul, can I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a lot of time to put your point forward, but we're just going to explain what we are seeing on the split screen of our television. What happened, it's very, sometimes things just happen in cycles. What happened with Upasana, and you had this Zoho CEO who quote-tweeted Upasana's tweet where she actually propagated to young women that freeze your eggs, focus on your career, suggesting that what about adding to, doing your demographic duty. 10 days before that, there was this young girl, and let's get those, that story out, called Juliet. And this young girl had just finished her PhD. She's about, 28, 29-year-old. And she put forth that, just done my PhD, extremely happy. And then an influencer quote tweeted, practically saying that, how the degree looks on her, no man will ever, be interested in her. And that tweet blew up. It's got 1 million views. I think it's got multiple people reacting. Many were triggered by the response. And that, of course, a week later playing out in India. But go ahead, Rahul, make your point.
Yeah, just two submissions. There is an honest ideological divide. We can call it right versus left, or you can call it conservative versus liberal, or cultural versus progressive. This has been a healthy debate, and Sridhar, Vembu sir should be applauded for sparking that debate. It has been a very healthy debate. Both sides were very civil, and this has been a very genuine, honest debate. Let me put forward two submissions for it. World over, WHO and the other organizations accept that replacement level fertility rate needs to be 2.1. So it would be ideal for people to have not late marriages. It shouldn't be too early marriages, but somewhere around their mid-20s. If they can marry, they can have the energy, they can have the life, they can have, it will be a well-settled life for them. And I agree more with Sridhar Vembu, because we all Indians value our family in a much more meaningful way. And look at many spaces around the world, including South Korea, where the fertility rate is 0.88. Somewhere Japan is around 1.1. That's the reason why world over, right-leaning people, including Elon Musk, keeps on saying that South Korea will be vanishing from the face of the earth. Japan is going to have a demographic crisis. Please understand, 20, 30 years back, we had an issue of overpopulation. Right now, we are going into a space where we are going to have underpopulation. When we were studying in school, we were taught that population is a liability. But right now, we understand demographic dividend is our strength. That doesn't mean a person should have 5 to 8 to 10 kids like our grandfathers used to have. We need to have optimum population, and that optimum population is not only for community and society, but also for that individual, their care, their life. So a person like Upasana, who we all adore, comes from a great family. They should be giving examples or setting models. It's very, very welcoming that she wants to have kids. That family kind of structure she adores. But it would be, normal people. It would be better for them if they can have it in their 20s, so that they can spend their energy positively. And various studies across the world, including Harvard Grant Study, rightly mentioned that human life is about meaningful relationship. The happiness and health of an individual depends to a great extent on the harmonious relationships we have. So family is a basic unit of society. The right or the right-leaning cultural view emphasizes on the family, whereas the left liberal position emphasizes more on the individual. So I think I agree, or I lean more to Sridhar Vembu's point, where individual needs to have a great family, great career, and a great society, and a person can have it all. It is not that the female has to sacrifice the family for the career or their own personal life for family. There can be a balance. There can be a beautiful synergy, and many people have done that, including my family. My wife, we have 2 kids. She's a corporate woman. She has been working in the corporate for the past 20 years. You can balance. Of course, the family support needs to be there. Social support needs to be there. But let us inspire our new generation of youngsters, whereas Upasana ji was telling this is the progressive India, saying that less and less females want to get married. I would humbly urge Upasana ji and people who think like her not to give that kind of a negative message. Whereas if you are saying you are being anti-family, you are branded progressive. I think that is not a right message to give our youngsters.
Negativity is also very subjective, Rahul Eswar. And I can't really, I had to just look at all the 4 faces on your on the same panel, everyone, all of these 4 women had a very subtle smile on their face. Each one of them has something to say. What is ideal? It's not ideal to have a drink or a glass of wine in the evening. There are people who do. It's not ideal to reach out for, for that cigarette. Many people do. It's not ideal to breathe the air that we are breathing right now in the national capital, but we do. Idealism is something I think we really shouldn't subscribe, but I'm not the one.